Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to take a look at another budget art supply. These are the Magicfly color pencils, set of 72. These were sent to me for review purposes, and I did receive quite a few requests over the last year or so to review these, so I'm happy that I can bring this to you. This comes in a square metal tin, and on the inside of the tin there is a color swatch, although I will say it is not very accurate. There's also stars representing their light fastness information. However, there's no key. Now, if you look at the bottom of the box, let me just cover it so I don't drop them, and flip it over, it says that these do correspond to light fastness, but it doesn't tell you what is good and what is bad. There is a variety of 1 to 5 stars, and most of these have 5-star ratings. Some have 2, and some have 3 and some have 4. So what I do in a situation like this, well, first of all, with budget art supplies, I am very wary of the light fastness information that they provide. If you're really interested in light fastness, what I would do is make your own swatch, cut it in half, put it in a sunny window for a couple of months and see what happens. I live in Maine. We don't get a ton of sun, and it's really not that scientific, but at least you'll be able to see what's fading and what isn't. But when I do see a rating system like that, and I'm not sure what is best and what is worst, I will look at my browns, meaning they are going to be the most light fast. Earth tones are cheap pigments, and they generally use like iron oxide because it's cheap, regardless on any art supplies, and they tend not to fade. So I'll look at like a brown coffee that's got 5, and I'll look at black and white. Let's see, white's got 5, gray's got 5, steel gray's got 5. And then I'll look at pinks, and I'm like, okay, flamingo has 2, but peach has 5, peony has 4, fuchsia has 2, eggplant has 3, lavender has 2. So your purples and pinks tend to be the most fadey, although there are some like pinks here that I think those would fade for sure, and they've got 4 and 5 light fastness ratings. So I'm not really one to put a lot of faith in the light fastness ratings of budget pencils, but they tried. They put a swatch out there, and I'm sure they're kind of reproducing the information that the manufacturer has given them. So as you can see, there's not a lot of space wasted in these tins, and I just kind of put them in color order. There's little tabs on the long ends of the pencil, which is weird. Usually your tabs are on the side, and I mention this because it may be difficult if you have large hands to get these trays out, because I've got small hands, thin fingers, fingernails, and I can get these out. But say if you were somebody with larger hands and no fingernails, you might want to take some like duct tape or ribbon and make yourself some little lifts by, like, I take duct tape, like I'll take a piece of duct tape, like, well, let's see if this is a piece of duct tape. I would fold it over on itself, so I've got that sticky bit there, and I got the non-sticky bit, and then I would add it to the bottom of my my trays like that so I could lift them out. So that's what I would recommend doing if you're going to keep these in their trays. A lot of people decant their pencils into pencil cases with the loops as soon as they get them. I don't like to do that because I don't like to work out of pencil cases. I find them cumbersome and gaumy and big, and I only use pencil cases when I'm traveling. But you do you, because we're all different, guys. I did have a little bit of breakage on some of the colors here. Nothing. Now, keep in mind, my favorite pencils are Prismacolors, so I'm used to breakage. I'm used to having like soft leads that can be a little finicky. A couple colors did break in sharpening, but I was able to sharpen past the break, I guess, and get them to a working point again. They do wear down pretty quickly, though, because they are a very soft pencil. I prefer soft pencils, so I like that. If you don't, you may not prefer that. These are oil-based, which means that the proportion of oil to wax in a pencil, they have a little bit more oil. That's what they mean. There's no like pure oil pencil and pure wax pencil. There's always some sort of combination, and manufacturers will adjust their recipe to meet the needs that their customers want or that they want to put in their pencils. Let's take a look at a swatch. Now, I did a swatch on black, which you can see is pretty underwhelming. I used the colors that were more pastel looking, that would stand up on black a little bit better. I would not recommend these for using on black or toned cardstock. Maybe on like craft you'd be fine, or a pale like pastel shade, but they definitely get very muted because your oil-based pencils tend to be more translucent. So this is a swatch of the 72 colors, and I laid them down pretty thickly, and I was really pleased with how easily they laid down. I think if you're an artist or a coloring book enthusiast or a stamper or crafter who likes to use colored pencils, but maybe has some arthritis or some strength issues or some grip issues, I think that these would be a good alternative to, say, Prismacolor, because they lay down really well. The breakage issue is not as bad as it is with Prismacolor occasionally. I really don't have that big of an issue with Prismacolor. I don't think these break any more than Prismacolors, probably a little bit less, but they are nice and soft like that. But these are an oil-based pencil versus Prismacolor that's a wax-based pencil. So I did some layering here, and with light layers, I was able to get between 4 and 6. I think in general use, though, how you generally color and layer, you'd probably be more like 2 or 3 layers, but I did very, very light layers just to see how far I could go, and it was 6 layers. These will respond with your alcohol blending markers if you like to blend with those, also with Gamsol, but they will also respond with just plain old water. So after I laid these down, I actually took a brush with water, and I took like this center section here, and I wet it, and I tried to spread it up, and I could do that with most of these colors. So if you want to smooth out your color, you can do that with water. But I want to mention this because I know there was a big controversy about budget pencils bleeding with water, and I've never run into that because I never really had cause to put water over my colored pencil work. I generally will use a wax or oil-based pencil as a last layer if I'm doing it in mixed media, because as an archival way of working, you want those fatter, slicker layers on top. So I never had put watercolor over it or gouache over it unless I'm just doing a highlight, so I hadn't had an issue. Now on my finished artwork here, I did use gel pen, and I didn't get any bleed through, and I used some gouache here, some Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, and I didn't get any bleeding issues anywhere. So I don't really think that's going to be that big of an issue, but I wanted to mention it because some people said they've had some bleeding with certain pencils that do react with water when they spray, if they spray fix them. Again, I don't spray my colored pencil work, so I've never had that issue, but I just want to put it out there. I think it's kind of neat because, like, if you don't have Gamsol, you could just use like a Q-tip and some water and blend, like if you've got a little bit of a grainy look and you want to smooth it out a bit, you could do that with just water. But I thought it was, you know, they did move quite a bit, quite significantly, so I did want to mention that. So these run about $30 for a set of 72, putting them in the budget pencil category, along with like Arteza. Their set of 72 is 30 bucks currently when I just checked. Art and Fly, Magicfly, well, that's what we're looking at here. Cezanne, Pagos, Color It, I think they're still around. Color It might be a little bit less, I'm not sure right now, but theirs come with a case. And a lot of other brands that I don't have and haven't used, which are probably very similar. We see a lot of pencils that kind of look like this, that have the black barrels with the color dipped ends and the silver or gold band. And I did kind of look online to compare the looks. Now the printing looks a lot like the Brut Funer, but the Brut Funer round pencils have a thicker lead. This is only a 3mm lead, which is quite small compared to like say your Prismacolor or any of your Derwent pencils. And the body is kind of skinny. So if you don't like that skinny pencil, I don't know if you necessarily notice it, but I do notice it because I really do like Derwent products as well as Prismacolor. And like I've noticed my new Prismacolors are skinnier than they used to be, like from like 20 years ago. These are definitely skinnier than a Derwent pencil, so keep that in mind. I don't have the difficulty holding them, but if you do, you may want one of those squishy pencil grips if you have any issues like that. Of course, that might be a real big pain in the butt to be putting those on all your pencils or putting them on and off your pencils as you use them. So keep that in mind. These are a little bit skinnier. I'll just grab a Derwent just to show you what we're talking about here. It's not, I mean, and this is a Derwent Signature, which is a little bit of a fatter pencil, but just, can you tell the difference there? Maybe if I put it on a piece of white paper. I don't know if you can really see the difference there, but, you know, they are a little skinnier, and I just wanted to make a mention of that. They have a matte barrel. I love how their printing is large because I have a really hard time reading some of the, like Prismacolors. Their printing is so small and it's gold on a fully colored barrel, and I find that so difficult to read, but luckily I just know my Prismacolors so well that I know what I'm getting when I pick up a pencil. The caps are not accurate, so you definitely want to look at the lids when you are deciding what color you want. The nice thing about these black trays, I will say, is that it's really easy to see what your leads are. Even though oil-based pencils are a little more translucent, if you're working on white paper, they are going to look how the leads look for the most part. I mean, some of those really, really dark reds, like this burgundy, might look a little bit brighter when you have them on the white paper, but for the most part, you can just look at the leads and identify what you have. These being thinner leads, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than, say, with a Prismacolor or like a Derwent Color Soft, but you know, you're paying less for these. So comparatively, I want to compare these to some pencils that fall in that same budget category. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit more. So these are the Magicfly. These are the ones that I'm reviewing today. And I pulled pencils that reminded me of these. And I don't trust my memory when I'm doing a review because memory can be faulty. We could be having a really fantastic day, or maybe we were not so far along on our journey when we tried these pencils, a brand of pencils, and thought they were fantastic. And then as you get more experience and you develop your taste, you can kind of discern between the qualities of the pencils a little bit more. So I compared them with the Art and Fly pencils, and I have the set of 48. I compared them with the Color It pencils. I have a set of 72, and my Color It's are probably 4 years old or so. I compared them with the Cezanne, which are about a year old. That's the 120 set. And I compared them with the Pagos set of 72, which are probably about 6 months old. And I found that they were quite comparable with these different brands, but I like them as much as the Cezanne. And for a budget pencil, the Cezanne are my favorite, but Magicfly performed very similarly. The Cezannes run about $24 to $30 for a set of 72, and they've got a set of 120 that's between like $45 and $50 depending on what kind of sale you get. And the Art and Fly, I think they're about 30 bucks for 72. They're like 20 bucks for 48. They're a wonderful pencil. At least the 48 set, they were great. But I found that the color laydown, the softness, the blendability were right there with the Cezanne. Those would be my two picks for the budget oil-based pencils. Now, they did perform quite similarly to the Pagos. I didn't have exactly those colors in the Pagos, so if you have the Pagos and you want to expand the range, it seems like the Magicfly colors are a little bit different. The Color It was probably the most difficult one to compare, and it could be the age of the pencil. Maybe they dried out a little bit over the year, but I found that I had more issues with breakage with Color It, and they were a much harder pencil as well. I would recommend the Magicfly or the Cezanne over the other budget pencils. And you know, Art and Fly was good too. I also like the Art and Fly. So okay, Art and Fly, Magicfly, and Cezanne. They're all aces in my book, baby. I like those all for the price, definitely. So I thought I'd also compare these to a wax-based pencil in that same price range. So Arteza, their set of 72 is right around $30. They're still in that budget range, even though a lot of people say that Arteza is too expensive to be a budget range pencil. Most of these are flying right around 30 bucks. I found that the Arteza, them being a wax-based pencil, blended probably a little bit better, a little bit quicker and easier to get a blend, but they are a harder pencil. They're like, as far as lay down, they're going to be harder to lay down, so if you have arthritis or any sort of strength issues, or you're just impatient and you want to get that color down fast, the Artezas are going to take a little more effort. So then I decided to compare them to two high-end oil-based pencils that I own, and that would be the Faber-Castell Polychromos and the Derwent Lightfast. Now, I tend to be a little precious with my more expensive pencils, so I like having the budget options to fool around within a sketchbook or to use on, you know, experimental techniques that I know I'm not going to sell. I'm just kind of, you know, messing around. So I tend to be a little precious with my Polychromos, and I have to say, I bought some open stock Polychromos back when I was deciding whether I wanted to get another full set of Prismacolor, because I had like a set of 45 from when I was a little kid, or if I wanted to get a different brand, and I bought some open stock Polychromos. So I ended up buying a full set of Polychromos. But something about Prismacolor just always pulled me back to those. I love that softer, faster lead. I think because being more of a mixed media artist, I tend to use it on top of watercolor, and the Prismacolors show up better and they lay down faster. Personal preference, not a quality thing. I think Polychromos is a better quality pencil, but personal preference, I prefer Prismacolor. So that's another thing. You've got to kind of know yourself and know what you prefer but I'll just I think I can unbiasedly say that Polychromos is a higher quality pencil than a Prismacolor. So I did a blending there. Polychromos is much harder than the Magicfly. The Magicfly lays down much quicker, much softer. So if you love the Polychromos, keep in mind the Magicfly is going to be softer. You can replace your Magicfly pencils as you use them up with a similar Polychromos, but you're going to have a harder pencil there. But with the Polychromos being more pigmented, you should still be able to lay down your color just as well. So yeah, I mean, with Magicfly softness, you might actually prefer to replace a used up color with a Prismacolor. That said, if you're kind of trying to decide between Magicfly and Prismacolors are only $10 more. So I would recommend saving up a little longer and getting Prismacolor. That way, when you run out of a color, you just buy that color for like $1.60 on Blick or whatever they're selling for, $1.50. I don't know. Not as much as a Polychromos, or definitely not as much as a Derwent Lightfast. So then, I decided to try the Derwent Lightfast, which these aren't really fair comparisons because these cost like 6 to 8 times more than these other pencils. My Derwent Lightfast was much softer than a Polychromos. It blended out and mixed really beautifully. Yeah, I really love the Derwent Lightfast. And I did this out of curiosity just to see the difference between a high end that's 8 times more than like the low end, just to see the difference. I definitely think you could get the Magicflies and you could practice with them and see if you really like colored pencils before investing in a more expensive oil-based pencil. But if you like a more opaque finish, I would definitely save up a little longer and get that set of Prismacolors, or buy a smaller set of Prismacolors. They often go on sale, and when you buy them in a set, they are much cheaper than buying them open stock. So I mean, I've even bought like sets of 36 on like a really great sale to replace ones that I've used up, because it's just so much cheaper than buying them open stock. And the ones I tend to use up tend to be the ones that are in like the 36 set. So so there you have it. And then just to compare some swatches, I'm going to zoom back out again, just to compare some swatches of the Magicfly to some other comparable brands. I want to show you that, and then I'll show you finished artwork as well. So like I mentioned, I've recorded this tutorial a couple times, or this review, because I didn't want to be redundant. Now I'm like, I can't remember what I said before, but I did mention that these colors will bleed with water, but I didn't have bleeding with the gel pen or with the gouache that I used on there. There was no bleed through, so I think you're safe to use a white product on top of your colored pencils if you like to for highlights and not have an issue. I know that's like, people say, oh, if your pencils bleed, you're gonna have an issue with that. I didn't. That's all I can say. I can just speak for myself, but I didn't have an issue with that, even though I could get them to blend out with water. So there you have it. I just wanted to put that out there. So these are the Magicfly pencils, and I'm just going to compare them. I'm going to put them horizontally so we can get, I can zoom in and I can get a little bit more on screen. So these are the Magicfly right here. That's what I'm reviewing today. These are the Pagos. Pagos also reactivated with water. I found the color saturation to be quite similar. The Pagos pencils are a little bit harder to blend, and they lay down a little bit harder. They can have a little bit of scratchiness to them. There was absolutely no scratchiness with the Magicflies. Not even on any of the colors that I swatched out. I didn't find that one persnickety pencil. The hardest pencil out of the Magicfly I found to be was the white. But white tends to break in Prismacolor, so they probably opted for a harder formula so they wouldn't have the breakage issue. I would highly recommend, if you're going to buy any of these budget oil-based pencils, that you pick up a good white pencil. Either the Derwent Drawing pencil or the Prismacolor white pencil. Derwent Drawing has less breakage issues, but they wear down faster. Yeah, I'd probably just go with the Derwent Drawing, to be honest. Derwent Drawing Chinese White, that's such an opaque pencil, and it doesn't have the breakage issues that Prismacolor has. I think it's because it's better centered, and I think it's glued in all the way, and I don't know if Prismacolors are glued in all the way. That said, about the centering, that's another thing I don't know if I mentioned here. 19 of these pencils were not well centered. So that means when you sharpen it, you're going to have to sharpen those more often, because you're going to end up with that wood casing at the end, and you're going to waste product, and they're only a 3mm lead as it is, so keep that in mind. I don't know how that's going to relate to other sets. Maybe I got a weird set, but 19 out of 72 were not centered. Okay. And here's the Cezanne. The Cezanne, I really like the Cezanne. There's less movement with water with the Cezanne. I probably would give the edge to the Cezanne pencils, but I have a review on all of these other ones. If you want to check them out, feel free. But overall, very comparable. Then we've got Art and Fly. I really like the Art and Fly pencils. I think the Art and Flies layer a little bit more. You can get a little more layers on them. They're a little bit harder of a pencil. Same price though, less movement with water if that's something you're concerned with. The Art and Fly and Cezanne are also very similar. Yeah, they're great. They're also really great on sanded paper with powder blender. I did a tutorial with those. I like those. I don't think I had any breakage issues with those. Color It. Those can be tricky to find. They come in a case, which is really nice. There again, they look a lot like these pencils, but they might actually be a little bit skinnier, and they have a shorter color code on the end. And I did have some more breakage with the Color It's. Color It's are harder. They almost feel a little more waxy. And I don't know if they call themselves an oil-based pencil or not, but they have that translucency and that feel of a oil-based pencil, so I put it with those, but I would give the edge to the Magicfly, although these are very water resistant, which is good if that's what you want, if that's a quality that you're interested in. And then these are not budget, but I say quality-wise, they're about the same. These are the Spectrum Noir pencils. And I have my version's a couple years old. It's not the original version. The original version reminded me a lot of the Color It's, and a lot of they looked like this type of pencil, but they're not available anymore. And Spectrum Noir I found to be very similar. They don't react. I'm just going to double check, but I don't think they have that water reactability issue. No, they don't. They're more water resistant, so they're not the same formulation, but quality-wise they seem very comparable to these kind of $30 for 72 sets. The thing I liked about Spectrum Noir is that you could buy a set of 24 and then buy another set of 24 and not have any duplicates. That said, their sets of 24 run from like 20 to 40 bucks. You know, and they fluctuate quite a bit. So for the price of 72, you're getting 24. So I don't really care for that. And there was no open stock option on the Spectrum Noirs yet. Hopefully they're getting to a point where they're going to offer that, but they don't right now. If they did offer open stock and they weren't very expensive, they would be a wonderful replacement for any of the budget pencils that you use up. But I think it's pretty expensive for companies to offer open stock, so you don't see many companies doing it unless they're selling a pencil for, you know, over $1 a piece. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to take a quick look at my notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. I love the fact that I can read the names on these barrels, because I cannot read the names on a lot of barrels because they're just too small and they're metallic and it's just very difficult. These are very easy. I think if you're an older crafter, that might have some strength issues, maybe you're looking for a present for your grandparents or your parents, and you want to get something that they're going to be able to read easily, or maybe even a really younger artist that might have a hard time reading that really tiny print. I find them to be a very accessible product, and I think this would be wonderful in a setting like that, a senior center. They were fun to color with. They felt good. The color laid down really nice. I didn't have any problems layering and blending. You are limited to the amount of layers because they are such a soft pencil, but they were fun to use. They felt good. They laid down really nice. Just my first impressions with these as I was swatching them, I'm like, oh, these feel really good. So there you have it. I hope you found that useful. I hope that you know, if you're interested in budget pencils, this gives you a little food for thought. And keep in mind, I have reviews for all those other brands that I mentioned if you want to do a little more research before investing. Because 30 bucks is still 30 bucks, you know? You don't want to buy something that you're not going to use. I don't think 30 bucks is something to throw away, personally. I'd rather save up more and buy something that's going to meet my needs than go with a budget version if it's not. But if you're working in a sketchbook or you're doing coloring book pages that aren't going to be exposed to light for long term, you're definitely going to get a lot of joy and a lot of pleasure out of using these pencils. So I will have a review on their watercolor pencils coming up at some point. I need to spend a little more time with them before I give an opinion on them. But I think these are great. As long as you don't need open stock or lightfast pencils, go for it. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed these reviews. And until next time, happy crafting.